This is episode 178 of the Double Cross Anime Podcast. I'm Wooper, and here's Mario.
Hello, I'm Mario. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Or were you
Happy
talking
New
to the
Year's
audience?
Both, actually.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk to the audience now, the two of us, about our 10 favorite anime of the year 2024, as you could probably guess based on the title or the thumbnail. It's not our joint 10 favorite anime. We've each got a top 10 list, and we're going to talk about some honorable mentions as well, I imagine. We haven't ironed out exactly how we're going to do it, but it'll probably be like years past. We're wrapping up our 7th full year of podcasting about anime with this episode. We started at the very, very end of 2017, I guess, or the very beginning of 2018, one of those two. So it has been about 7 years. And this year, well, I don't know. How did you feel about this year? Before you ask me, because you always love to ask me, how do you feel about the year in anime? So I'm playing the Uno reverse card. How did you feel about it, Mario?
All right. I just feel that it's a bit of an underwhelming year for me. Like normally, I would top up my my top 10 easily. This time though, I struggled to have my number 10 because I watched many and none of them I actually feel can fit, into my top 10 spot. So you did ask me earlier that how did I go with that? So and I told you that I got some surprise for you. So the surprise is that yesterday after I turned off my ballot, I actually just like one of the show just come to my attention, so I decided to check it out. And since I got some time, I just decided to after watching 3 episodes, I just like, hey, I gonna finish that to see if it's gonna crack my top 10, and it did.
Okay. So
yeah,
when you say ballot, what you're referring to is the ballots that each of us submitted along with 2 other writers for the anime blog that we write for. Still,
that's correct.
after all these years. Okay. So that means that there was a late change to whatever shows are on your ballot. I mean, regardless of I feel like each of us are trying to predict the other person's top 10 list, so they're shrouded in secrecy. But regardless of any last minute changes or anything, I'm pretty sure that my predictions are solid. I think I'm gonna nail you.
Wow. Let's see how many percent that you nailed me this time. I think you did pretty well for the previous years.
Yes.
Especially last year, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Maybe my streak will be broken, or perhaps you'll get all 10 of mine. Who knows? We won't know till we run them all down, which is what we're gonna do in this episode.
Cool. All right. How do you feel now, my ass?
How do I feel now? I feel great. Next question.
All right. How do you feel about the animes of 2024?
Oh, damn. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I don't think it was great. Like the show that I've got in my number 10 spot, it was pretty long. It was a pretty long series, like more than 13 episodes. I guess that's what qualifies an anime as being long in the modern era. Right. And by the time I finished it, I didn't care for it at all anymore. So, like, for example, the show that I've got in my number 10 spot is only there because I really enjoyed it at the start. So that might give you some idea of how I feel about the entire year. I mean, I only finished 18 shows, maybe in the low 20s, like 21 or 22 if you count shorts. So it's not as though I scoured the anime landscape for everything that might possibly appeal to me. I didn't search far and wide for shows that might be my favorites. I stuck with what I liked after watching 3 or so episodes, plus, whatever we watched for the podcast. And out of those 18-ish, picking 10 was like, I don't know, man. It's only really my number 1 show of the year that I feel was like very good.
Strongly to us. All right.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I also finished 18 shows. I just do the count, not including shows like Uzumaki, which is like only 4 episodes.
Yeah.
So like we got the same numbers of shows, and yeah, well,
Yeah, I used to watch like 30. Do you
yeah,
remember that?
yeah, that was the time, man.
Yeah.
I
Back
don't think
when,
I can ever do that. Like 10 years
yeah.
ago. Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't even that long ago that
Yeah,
we just watched anime like nonstop, I guess. Not really, but
yeah.
comparatively
I
speaking,
think
watched a lot more.
I,
Tolerated a lot more.
I think used to be that I would try to finish like 20 a bit plus shows a year. So 18 is a bit on the low side, but as I am now, I think 18 is a pretty good numbers. So
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm happy with that. Yeah,
We got other stuff to worry about besides anime.
yeah, true.
But not for the purposes of this podcast episode. It's going to be all anime all the time. Honorable mentions,
Yeah,
10 through 1. We'll trade off, go back and forth.
yeah.
So whoever goes first will, when it comes, if we go back and forth, when it gets down to the very bottom of the list, that person will be revealing their number one anime before the other
Right,
person. So who
right.
do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I
Doesn't
think it just
matter.
depend on. It just depend on how many honorable mention that you have. I only got one.
Oh, okay. I have two. I figured that based on how we've done things in years past, two was like the standard. But if you have only one, I guess I'll go first, because then I
All
can
right.
do mine. You can sandwich yours in the middle, and I'll go again.
No. All right. That's a good.
Are you ready?
All right. Let's do that.
All right. My first honorable mention is Garden of Remembrance by Naoko
Right.
Yamada.
Yeah.
You might be one that you would have expected. It has no dialogue whatsoever, and it's mostly wordless. There are just like some cell phone messages that are translated, some on-screen text, and then the lyrics of a song. So I did wait until it was quote unquote subtitled, but I guess I could have watched it raw like whenever the file became available on the internet. I did wait though, so I saw it just recently, and I really loved it.
Right.
Yamada in this phase of her career where she's putting out stuff like Garden of Remembrance and episode 7 of that Modern Love Tokyo
Yep.
miniseries.
Yep.
It was like a live action miniseries, but she contributed an animated episode. The stuff that she's doing in this phase might be some of my it might actually be my favorite work of hers. Period. It's really really excellent. I feel like she's getting across themes about themes that like wider audiences can appreciate. I guess K-On! Is kind of specific, you know.
Mm.
Other works of hers like Tamako Love Story, they're aimed more at audiences that are like familiar with anime and already have a built-in appreciation for it. But stuff like Garden of Remembrance speaks to pretty much everyone who's dealt with loss, who has felt like they're just living rather than they're just alive rather than living the life that they want to live, dealing with grief, feeling at kind of a standstill. Those are some of the emotions that are present in Garden of Remembrance, at least in the first half, because it is kind of a short film of two halves. In the first half, the color scheme is mostly cool. There's a lot of light blues, purples. And the main character, who is just a girl who spends most of her time in her apartment, is like lying around, looking at her phone, preparing breakfast for herself, laying in bed. And it's carried by music, and the music is a lot slower. The guitars, because it's mostly like a guitar-driven indie flavored soundtrack, which I really like. The guitars are a lot more mellow in that first half, and you slowly, as you watch the main character go about her life, it kind of feels like she's in lockdown in her apartment. As you watch her live her life, it's you get this, you start to learn what it is that she's been dealing with, like what's caused her to kind of self-isolate from the world. But when it breaks into the second half, the color scheme changes. There's a lot more like really vivid, not too bright, but very vivid reds and yellows. And the main, I would say, the main song that plays is very, very energetic, almost nervous, but also triumphant. The main character starts to like, metaphorically push through some of the feelings that she's been dealing with ever since this loss that she suffered, and it's really moving. It's the sort of thing that anybody who appreciates not anime but animation in general can like grab onto, can be swept away by. It's a special work, I think, and I'm very happy with the direction that her career has taken. I still like everything that she did when she was younger at KyoAni, but it seems to me that she's really spreading her wings now that she's doing work elsewhere, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I think I watched the Garden of Remembrance as well, like earlier in the year when it's come out, because I know that there would be no dialogue.
Yeah,
I don't remember much of it though. It just like the way that it had no structures. It just go on about her life. I still really enjoy it. I still remember. I enjoy every moment of that.
yeah, it's so, I don't know, it's so intricate.
Yeah.
Like the feelings that it manages to evoke, and the colors that are used, the way that it's drawn, the way that the music interlocks with the visuals. It's just very, I don't know, it's very artsy. I like that she's leaning into that more now.
All right. So
What do you got for your one honorable mention? Only one.
all right. I don't actually have that many honorable mentions like previous years. The one that I got is the one that was kicked off from my top 10 because of the other shows, and so it basically was my number 10 and is now number 11 or HM honorable mentions, and that
Yeah,
show is
I mean, let's be real.
Shoushimin Series.
Let's be real. It's number 11. And I actually predicted that Shoushimin series would be one of your honorable mentions. So thank
Oh,
goodness for
wow.
your late number 10.
Huh, all right. So this is a show that it had two main distinctive features. One of that is about the murder mysteries, and the second one is the unique relationship between the two leads. I found that the first part is not entirely successful. Like some mysteries drag on, and sometimes I feel like the show just wastes too much time with the dialogue. But the second part, the relationship between the two men, is the show main anchor, and it works really well. The last arc in particular is all about them, and it finds a way to create conflict between them. And I enjoy how they don't go for the usual route with this pairing. I don't entirely, like really love the show, so I actually feel kind of relieved that the other show just show up,
Okay.
and
So maybe a dishonorable mention at this point.
well, and yep, well that's my HM. How
Okay.
about the other one for you?
I'm interested to hear you say that the last arc was all about the two central
Right.
characters rather than being
Ha-
like just continuing on a string of mysteries. Because I didn't
yep,
really care for Shoushimin series first episode, but I like
yep,
your description of the last arc.
hmm,
Maybe
yep.
someday in the distant future I will get around to watching it and I'll arrive at that arc myself.
It's only 10 episodes, so give yourself a try, maybe.
Did I read somewhere that a second season was confirmed?
Yep, yeah,
Okay,
it is,
gotcha.
which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Usually when that happens so quickly after an anime finishes airing, it means it's been planned for two
Yeah,
seasons, like from the very beginning.
yeah, yeah,
So there must be more story to tell.
yeah. Kind of interesting to see how they plan on going with that. But yeah, I'm glad that I didn't spoil you anything. So that if you ever want to watch it, you will you know find out for yourself.
Yep, we'll see. I think eventually the two of us, I don't know if we'll do this anytime soon, but perhaps at some future point, the two of us will go back through like the 2010s and 2020s and try and figure out
Agree,
like which of the series that we never finished ought to get like picked back up and re-examined.
yeah,
Um, perhaps that would
re-evaluate.
be perhaps that would be a candidate.
Yep. All right. Right.
Okay,
What's your
so
second?
my second honorable mention is the Concierge, or
Right.
Hokkyoku Hyakkaten no Concierge-san. I
Yep.
think that's how you are supposed to say it. It's directed by Yoshimi Itazu, who I'm not familiar with at all. So I can't say like what this work represents in terms of his career or his like his style. But I did like the movie a lot. I really like the character designs. Most of them were animals because the plot of
Mm.
the film is that this is a department store where animals go to shop, and all the staff or the majority of the staff, are human beings. At one point in the film, there's a conversation between the owner of the store and its what's the guy's position? Like somebody who examines and like grades, I guess, the employees. So somebody who's in maybe HR or talent acquisition,
All right.
something like that. There's a
All right. Yep.
conversation between those two people, and it's kind of framed as though the department store exists as a way of like humanity extending an olive branch to the animals that they've hunted to extinction. And many
All
of the
right.
characters in this film are animals that are thought to be extinct in the real world today. But in this film, they exist as customers and as clients in this department store. So that kind of lends the film an additional quality of like fantasy. It's not a fantasy film, but the department store being so luxurious and catering to I don't know, like a high class of animal, and it being kind of like a playground, like a playground for the rich and the wealthy, where they can go and spend all their animal dollars or whatever on luxury goods. It kind of makes the film feel fantastical a little bit. Adding to that feeling is the very loose animation. I really like the animation in this film. Since many of the characters are animals, they have to all be drawn. Their walk cycles aren't even necessarily walk cycles because some of them have like flippers. There's a seal. One of the major customers is a seal, and she like pushes herself along the ground with her flippers. And there's also a giant woolly mammoth who is an ice sculptor, and he's voiced by Kenjiro Suda. You know, the guy whose voice sounds like this, and he's often a villain in different anime series. I can't imitate his voice at all, but it's very deep and nasally, kind of gravelly.
Yeah.
He's a woolly mammoth character who is an ice sculptor. There's all different kinds of animals. They all have to be animated very particularly because they all move a very different way. Um, it's it's just a very charming film. I think there's a character who is a floor manager. He's one of the human characters, and he's always popping out of the wall or popping out of a soup pan, or just emerging from all different places that you wouldn't expect in order to criticize, or in some instances praise the main character, the concierge, who's new to the department store, and it's all the plot basically is about her getting hired on a trial basis and doing her best to meet the animal customers' needs, and mostly failing, but getting herself into trouble and stuff, but sometimes succeeding, and at the there's a heartwarming ending to it as well. So I thought the production was great. I really liked the background art as well. The hotel itself had a lot of character. It looked like a place that you would want to go to shop yourself, even if the hotel was not built for you, if you're not an extinct animal, if you're a human being. It still looks like a lot of fun. It's a very small film, just over an hour long, but I really enjoyed it. I don't think a lot of people are going to end up seeing this one, but it's very fun.
Yeah. The film itself piqued my interest, but I haven't got a chance to watch it. I think I got that word for you. You said fantasy, but I think the word would be magical realism. Is that appropriate or?
There's not really any magic to it. I mean, there are talking animals, but that's about it.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, I don't think magical realism really applies because it is a kind of a meat and potatoes. Like the workings of the department store are very reminiscent of how things would work in real life. It's just that there are animals there. Like the fact that there are managers and supervisors and like HR people and owners, and there's a business, and there's etiquette and everything. It's not like there's a different set of rules like there would be in a work of magical realism.
Mm-hmm. All right.
But it's got a certain magic to it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Is it remind you of Tomihiko Morimi's works, like the Tatami Galaxy and?
No, I wouldn't say so. It's not as like its structure is not as ambitious, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
It's more straightforward than that.
All right.
It is a pretty simple film,
Yeah.
New employee on the job, messes up a lot, grows to better inhabit her role. Then there's some crisis towards the end of the film that she helps to solve. Feel good ending. Roll credits. But I'd say there's room for stuff like that on my top 10 list. It would be a top 10 entry of mine. Only it's a film, so it doesn't make it.
Cool. Yeah, and I think we got another postcard where we talk about some of the anime movies, and I think this is one of these films that we wanted to check out. So
yeah, maybe. There's lots of other contenders. We'll see.
Yeah. We will work that out.
Yeah,
cool.
That's for the future.
Yep. All right, now into the top 10. Shall we? Are you ready?
Sure. Are you gonna go first?
Yep, I'm gonna go first.
Okay.
So you're gonna be the last one who call out.
Okay.
I suspect though that we're gonna have the same number one. So let's see about that.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
All right. At my number 10 is Girls Band Cried.
Okay.
It's a new trend that I think I'm kind of into now. A CG cute girl doing cool things. Of like these girls starting a band and become an idol. It's not as dramatic as the title suggests, and I would say that much less compared to the other idol show the year before, which was Bank Dream is My Girl.
Right.
Here the conflict is more about the difference in approach between the two band members. One is naive and wants to push ahead. Like for example, she really wanted to burn the bridge, quote unquote, to go professional. So just mean that she decided like it's absolutely necessary to quit school beforehand, just because it's in order to not having a way back.
Mm-hmm.
The other girls who is much older and who has experienced all of this setback is afraid to trying and failing again. So we sort of see like the two forces, like trying to reason and trying to balance each other out. So I think that's just like one of these pleasure to watch. Like how you understand both from both point of view from the two like opposing individuals, and you get to see how they resolve the conflict as well. And other girls, they all have their distinct personality as well. So it's a choice just to watch them, like kind of hang out to each other's, hanging out and like playing and like see the band succeed. One of the issue is the issue that we got in all of these shows like this. It's just the beginning for them, so we just see how they like recruit the band members, and just getting it big before like we see anything else. So I guess more season gonna come, and like that is when I see that it will get more and more like resonate to like new watchers. For now though, I'm happy with like the first part of the series.
Yeah, I seem to recall that this show was like a pretty big success in Japan. I mean, Japan loves these kind of girl band shows.
Yeah, I agree.
So
well,
I'm sure that there will be a second season. So good for you. You'll get some more girls band cry in the future. I don't know. I don't really remember when the second season is slated to come out, or if it's even officially announced. But I'm sure it will come out.
I'm sure it's like the kind of thing that the Japanese audience, young audience, really eat it up. So.
Yeah, it's got cute girl characters trying hard to do their best and experience seishun youth, and then there's music as well that you can buy the soundtrack, and it's like the characters are idols almost.
Yeah, and I got to say this is one of these shows where I don't really like the main characters, in a way that many of her concerns are like now that we are older, we can see the different side of the arguments of what she wants to bring up, but it's still kind of, she's the kind of protagonist that we still want to see how she like get out of her trouble, how she face that and get out of trouble. So like in a way, this is like one of these characters that I don't want to see in real life, but I really want to see her in fiction, and how she try best to resolve her conflict.
Aha. Well, it's interesting that you bring up the main character, because I watched the first 3 episodes of Girls Band Cry, and I stopped because I could not stand the main character at all.
All right. It gets worse.
Oh, good.
Oh, good. Well, I think it's good for you.
Okay. Well, there you go. I know not to continue on.
And I kind of think of as well as that the writer of the show is pretty young age as well. The kind a kind of script where I think they really nail it, the anxiety and the the thinking of these girls of that age. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean that it's bad, but like it just
I see.
So,
all right.
Interesting.
I mean, I can't relate. I thought Nina was just really, really annoying. I liked the other girl, the one who had been in a band previously, and I can't remember what her story was exactly, whether she quit or whether she was fired or the band broke up or what. I think it was the band broke up because they weren't seeing success, something like that.
All right. You want me to fill that in for you?
Why not?
the band Make It Big, the previous band that she was in, Make It Big. But she doesn't like the way they have to compromise their music,
Okay.
and
She didn't want to sell out.
yeah. So she decided to quit, and she decided to go solo, and she wasn't that successful on that front. So yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I mean, one thing I can say for Girls Band Cry is that I really like the OP.
All right.
The mix
Yeah.
of 2D and 3D, like concert animation, was pretty cool. I like the song as well. I mean, it's very J-rocky, but I think it had some heart to it. I like the vocal performance of the voice actress for the main girl.
I agree. Yep.
So okay, Girls Band Cry. Interesting first
All right.
pick.
All right. What's your number 10 then?
So my number 10, I already said by the end of it, I really didn't care for it at all anymore. That
Yep.
show is Karasu wa Aruji wo Erabanai, or Yadagarasu, The Raven Does Not Choose Its Master, I think,
Right.
is the English
Yep.
subtitle.
Yep.
So it's a 20-episode show, and there are 2 arcs. The first arc is like the first 13 episodes or so. Second one is the last 7. And the first arc is all like palace intrigue. It's set in a fictional well, it's set in the real world, but a fictional part of the real world where a bunch of transforming human/ravens live on a mountain. It's like a mystical mountain, where it's just them who live there, just the ravens. And there are 4 houses, like north, south, east, west, and they're all vying to marry one woman who represents their house. They're trying to marry into the royal family. So it's got it doesn't really it's not really Game of Thrones adjacent at all, but there is like a group of competing houses who are trying to grab power through marriage. And that part I was pretty cool with. I mean, it did rely a lot on twists as it went on, some of which were not very successful, I thought. And it did get like really over dramatic with one character like having a mental breakdown, and it got kind of weird as it went on. But I can say at least that on the whole, I liked the first 13 episodes. The differing personalities and like styles of dress of the 4 women who were vying to become the wife of the prince of the Kinu, meaning like golden raven or true raven. That was pretty cool. Like the fact that some of those 4 women tried to like form alliances with each other in order to freeze out some of the other girls so that they would get more attention from the prince or whatever. Meanwhile, the prince is just like he's fucked off and is not interested in visiting any of these women. He like never comes to the palace where they're all living. So all of them are doing this like futilely for no like immediate benefit. That's kind of an interesting tack to take, because it kind of reveals the shallowness of some of the games that they were trying to play with one another, when really they should have been viewing each other as human beings. They should have been cooperating. Anyway, that part was pretty cool. Like there was a lot of moving back and forth between different characters' perspectives, because we weren't always at the palace where those women were living. There was also a teenage main character who was like, he became the hand of the prince, basically, like his right-hand man. And he, as a result of that position, he got to see how things work on this mystical mountain, and like the corruption involved there, and the mind games that people would play with one another, and the deceptions and things. It was interesting. Like there was intrigue to it. So I was into it. But the second half, man, the last 7 episodes, where they introduce like monkeys. So now, in addition to there being ravens who can take human form, there are now monkeys that can take human form, and they eat the ravens. And the question of how they made it onto this mountain is like framed as this massive mystery, and it just fucking falls on its face and dies. The second half of this show sucks, and I'm mad about it. So there's my number 10.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I think I haven't watched the show past the first episode, but I remember being intrigued to in all these like palace drama.
Yeah,
And
like court politics.
Yeah, and there's like a few characters that immediately stand out to me. So yep, I might give that the first 13 episode a watch, and
I mean,
not the
plenty of people are pleased with the show as a whole. I don't think it's a particularly popular opinion that the second half is not very good. I'm kind of alone in that. I didn't like it at all though. So I mean, yeah, I would say that it's if you're looking to at any point to go back to 2024 shows and watch them, this would be one to check out, I think.
Yeah, but then when you talk about a show that like run over one core, I was immediately think of a Spy Wolf, and it wasn't the case.
Well, I mean, that I'm not a Spice and Wolf fan.
Well, maybe like the new version gonna change your mind. I remain
maybe
optimistic, All right.
I mean, there's 9 more spots. Maybe Spice and Wolf is up there somewhere.
All right, up to my number 9.
Okay.
It's another cute girl doing cute things, so I think it pretty much tell about my anime taste in general.
Yeah.
The number 9 is The Train at the End of the World.
Okay. Yeah, which we covered on the podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Which actually, I think the literal translation for the title is "Where does the Doomsday Train go?"
Yeah, it is phrased as a question. It's like "Shuumatsu train doko e iku?"
Yeah. Wow. And yeah, so we talk about it in the podcast. So we all agree that this show has a bizarre concept, but in a good way. It's about the the whole 7G network that that become a mess when the girl press the button and just screw everything up, just change the dimension of everything, and the people become animals and all that jazz. I'm glad that the show just go crazy with that concept. So every stop they make, we see different unique rules and oddities, and that make it remain fresh and original and unpredictable. To say that though, the girls and their conflict are not that deep for me, and the main bad guys is very badly written, and the ending wraps up a bit too neatly for me. But as a whole, it's still a really fresh, original show, and you know what? I love to ride that train myself.
I don't know. I think I might be too scared. Even if I had the map, that didn't. I seem to remember that the girls got a map from some weird guy that they discovered at one of the early train stops. And they had to like decode it because it was based on symbols, and they had to figure out what all the symbols meant. Even if I had a map like that, I think I would probably still be too afraid to take that train to the end of the world, because they end up in like some weird dimension where it's train tracks in just like a weird void. I don't know whether that was the last episode or the second to last episode, but it really does feel like they go to the end of the world. And I was of two minds about that show. Like, I think it's cool that I can't remember the name of the director who made it, but he's the same one who did all kinds of shows.
Mitsushima Shutomu. That's the name
he's the Shirobako director, right?
I would say so. Yes.
But beyond that, he's also done a bunch of stranger stuff, like at PA Works. For example, what was that horror show? It was Mayoiga, maybe?
All
I think
right.
he directed that. Also Kotobuki, that show about like where it
Oh,
had the 3D CG planes. I think that was
all
him
right.
as well. He often directs original anime. Like he seems to have the clout, I guess, in the industry that he can get those projects off the ground on a regular basis. So even though I wasn't totally wild about everything that happened in Shuumatsu Train, I mean, good for him that he
All
can,
right.
like write and direct
All right.
anime like that.
That's what you talk about. I think is Mayoga,
Yeah,
Mayoiga, and
right.
another. He's also director of another. He also
Oh,
directors of Prison School, of all things.
oh, prison's really interesting.
Yep, and a whole bunch of other shows like Chushiraku,
Okay, I did enjoy
I'm
Joshiraku.
August and Panzer. So yep,
Yes. Yeah, he's definitely a workhorse. I mean, it seems to me, it feels to me, just based on memory, like looking at his Annie DB page, for example. I seem to remember that he directed like 2 shows a year every year for the last decade and a half, or something like
yep,
that. He's very prolific, um, which is good because his shows are, they're weird.
yep. I agree.
Some of them are more normal, I guess. So he's demonstrated that he can handle more ordinary material, like more material with broader appeal, perhaps. But he seems to be like kind of a weirdo director, and that's, I mean, we need people like that. It can't just be uh, you know gamer teen travels to other world and meets like an elf girl and a dwarf girl. We can't have that every single season, every year for the rest of eternity. We need some weirdos
Yep,
to direct
yep,
original anime and mix things up.
yep. I agree. I agree. And if anything, to tell, the trend at the end of the world is like, yeah, some really fresh work that I'm glad he doing something as bold, as bossy, and like this one. So
Yeah, it. I can't say it's on my top 10,
all right,
so I'll spoil that.
all right,
But it's yeah. I mean, I didn't really regret watching it. I'm sure I did as I was finishing it, and I was sick of it.
yeah,
But looking back on it, it had an interesting concept. It seemed like the kind of show where he just threw a bunch of stuff into the show that he liked because every like train stop that the girls made
yeah,
was like a different 7G effect had taken hold of whatever town or city that was. So he could just do
yeah,
whatever the hell he wanted,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
and that's cool.
yeah.
Speaking of doing whatever the hell you want, my number nine is a show that also did whatever the hell it wanted,
All right.
and
What was
that
that?
is Astro Note.
Right. Hmm.
So what started as like a cute enough Rumiko Takahashi homage, which kind of combined, like the rom-com aspect of Maison Ikoku and the sci-fi stuff of Urusei Yatsura, it went it went nuts as it went along. So the final 2 episodes involve the house. I guess what is it called? Like a share house or a row house,
Yeah.
boarding house. It involves the boarding house where all the characters live, transforming into a spaceship and taking off. So that gives you an idea of how weird the show eventually gets. It does start to get a little crowded halfway through, I would say, because all the supporting characters who live in all the different rooms in the boarding house, each of them have their own little like love lives or backstories or personal goals. And in every single episode, especially in the middle, like I don't know, I would say episode 7, 8, 9, e- all of those characters have a little bit of time in each of those episodes. So it feels like the show is kind of spreading itself thin. But when things take off in the last couple episodes, it really feels worth it, because it's not as though every single one of those side characters has a role to play in what happens at the end, but the show just concludes nicely. The characters who are unlucky in love, like they still have a nice little moment with one other character that was significant to them, and the alien characters and the human characters like getting together for one last farewell party is really heartwarming. So it's just a fun little sci-fi comedy with a little bit of romance in there. The romance is sometimes successful, but most of the time the main character Takumi is kind of like being annoying about how much he loves the manager Mira. But at a certain point, the show starts to lean into how pathetic he is. Like instead of him being, it looks like Mira might actually have a crush on another guy who's taller and better looking than me. Oh, woe is me. That's what starts to happen when eventually a rival is introduced. But then, as the show goes on, him being so like pathetic about it starts to become funny, and the show knows that it's funny and it pushes it further and further. So that I really appreciated about it. And there's lots of little gags, like in the early episodes, there's a really long-haired character who looks like the woman from The Ring, who appears in the background. Like, blink and you'll miss her in several of the opening episodes. And eventually, you learn who she is, and she becomes a part of the supporting cast. And the way that that's handled is pretty entertaining. And I don't know. I guess that's about it. It's not particularly well like animated. Sometimes the colors are a little garish, but it's an original show in a year that didn't have a lot of great ones, in my opinion, just my personal opinion. And I think it concluded well, so yeah, I enjoyed it. Would I watch it again? Probably not. Would I recommend it to people? Maybe not, but I liked it. So number 9.
Yep. All right. I did guess Astro Note on the predicted top 10. So
nice
yay for me. I did guess the Train at the End of the World would be at your number 10 as well. So not
you're 1 for
not
2
good
so
on that
far.
part. Yeah, 1 for 2.
I'll just tell you, I'm 2 for 2 right now.
Dang. All right. This one you must number 8. You must probably guess it as well. It's the first sequel out of my top 10.
Okay.
I have, as you know, I have this one as on my top, the previous seasons of my top 10 before, and even like the first one in the top of my year on that year.
What is this?
Right.
Oh, I do know what this is. Yes.
All right. So enough of this series. Here's the show, Beastars Season 3, Pack 1. Also
Right.
known as the final season, Pack 1.
Yeah. Attack on Titan style.
Yeah, I don't like that at all, but we get into that. So the first 2 seasons focus on the school murder, but now the world is open up. So the whole school murder mystery is all over now, and Legacy meets a whole new ensemble cast. So yeah, yes, I do feel like sometimes the show lays its racism of herbivore and carnivore a bit too thick, but at the same time, it's Legacy's whole journey to make peace with his bloodlust, so to speak.
Oh, is that still going on?
That's what's going on.
He still has incidents of bloodlust.
Yep.
All right.
Of course. It's like it's the main theme.
Yeah.
And because of that theme, what is a better way to introduce a new main villains who is a mixed blood? So I think this whole season is all about mixed blood. The person who who born as a product between a carnivore and herbivore, and who is struggle about their like their own identities. I think this season is all about that as well. So it's a riveting watch from like from start to finish. The only issue I have with that is there's still another quarter to come. What the hell? Which like final season pack one? I just don't like this model at all. Why just don't just go all out of the way? And what's the difference between this Beastars 3 pack one and the second season? While they had like the same number of episodes, why don't just go season 3 and then season 4?
I'm sure it has to do with marketing.
I just hate that kind of marketing. And yep.
Well, I mean, you got more Beastars, so regardless of the name, that's good. I don't remember season 2 being on your top 10 list for whatever that year was.
It was, I think it was like number 7 or 8. But 2021, I think.
I don't think so.
I'm sure. All right.
Oh,
check your file.
Was it? Okay. Yeah. I guess I'll have to go. I'll have to check the archives.
Yeah. I remember when I putting the second season Beastars 2, and your first reaction was like, is it that low on your list? Because I think you guess it's like way up there in my top 5.
Yeah, that sounds right. Okay, well, yeah. So what's the deal with it being so low this year? 8th?
Because it's just pack 1. It's haven't finished the story. It's just half of the story. So
I see. Well, unfortunate for Beastars.
Let's see when these the final call come out.
Or maybe it'll be Beastars the final season, part 2,
3 as well.
The first part.
Yeah. Oh, dang! I can scream if that's the guy.
I mean, it's a proven model for success based on the show that it's imitating, or the the rollout that it's imitating at least. But yes, new Beastars, and I know some fans weren't exactly happy with season 2. So I guess the general consensus is that it kind of bounced back. At least that's what I've seen online.
I remember like the second season is, for me, it's quite successful. People think about it positively as well, but it's kind of muted. It's kind of like they don't have any strong feeling about that season whatsoever.
All right. Well, that's perfect then, because we don't have any strong opinions about anime anymore because we're old.
Yep. Well,
I don't have very strong opinions about my number 8, though I did enjoy it. It's a very short series. Maybe you can guess what it is based on me saying short. It is Hyakushou Kizoku, or The Noble Farmer, season 2.
Yep.
So a short comedy, as before, like last year, it was on my list. It's an adaptation of Hiromu Arakawa's farming manga, kind of autobiographical, or not kind of. It is autobiographical. It's about her, growing up on a farm and attending an agricultural high school and stuff. And I just really enjoyed the stories. There's stories about like her helping out on the farm and accidentally getting showered with manure because her dad turned on a manure spreader when she was standing in front of the I guess the gear that turns, and so she got basically covered in poop. There are stories about bears that like came to their farm and wrecked their fences and stole their crops and stuff, and what they had to do in order to deal with that, which was basically just hope that the bear would get killed by hunter because there's no real way to stop them if they want to get somewhere. There are more informative episodes about like different breeds of Japanese cows and horses, and those are not as interesting to me. I like the ones that were funnier or told about like childhood anecdotes and stuff. But those are there too. There are history lessons about how Hokkaido was like colonized and how farmers settled there and stuff. So even though it seems very niche, there's a lot of different forms that the little short 4-minute episodes can take, which is nice because then when you double click an episode, when you boot it up, you're not sure what you're going to get. And that's something that I sometimes appreciate. In this case, I did. And there was one episode that I want to draw particular attention to. It was episode in this season, I guess it would be episode 6. Overall, it's episode 20.
Yep.
There is an episode that's dedicated to the passing of Arakawa's grandmother.
Oh,
And
right.
there are some details about her grandmother's relationship with her mom. So that would be the grandmother's daughter. And it's kind of about how I don't know, like the relationships between grandmothers and mothers they kind of elements of those relationships trickle down into how the mother and the daughter then communicate with each other and view each other. And the scene where they go to the crematory where her body is burned and they all stand outside and you watch as the smoke rises from the smokestack and all the members of the family are there just silently observing that. It was very touching. So this is a comedy anime, full, it's total comedy. There's basically no drama. But I was impressed by the fact that they were able to carve out that single episode for some more contemplative material. So a little grab bag of fun agricultural related humor on the whole, and I enjoyed it just like I did last year.
All right. Just very unrelated, but on the trip that I went the other week, we actually went to one of the camel farm where like we actually see some of the camels in action in real
A
life.
camel farm.
Yep, yep. In
Wow.
Australia, yes, that was the thing. People transported camel to Australia in order to do the transportation because we have like the huge desert in the
Right.
middle of Australia, and that was way back then. And when we have like all the car and stuff and all the others modern transportation, they just like release all the camel into the wild.
Okay.
And this is one of the farm who like try to take them back because like they've been giving issues with the local as well.
Hmm.
So they try to put them into the farm and like doing the get the milk, and like they told you about like how the male camel attract the females, and I just feel like like we so out of depth with like all of these farmers and animals and all that. So it's kind of like a really good experience, and this is the show who gonna give us more like education,
Yeah.
and making farming is not something like exotic, but like something that we can totally relate it to. So
Yeah, and something that we rely on.
yeah, that's true. Yep.
If all the
That's
farmers on Earth disappeared,
yep.
if they were all, I don't know, if alien spaceships came and sucked them all up overnight and disappeared, we would all die.
Astro Note. All right. Yeah.
We within like 100 years, humanity would just be dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So yeah,
don't take them for granted. Not even the
I
camel farmers.
I agree. I agree. All right. That's a good pick, and yeah, I got that on my prediction as well. So
Yeah.
we got it well so far.
All right. How about your number
All right.
7? What do you got
My
there?
number seven. My number seven is the one that I think you will have this on your top 10 later on as well.
Okay.
Maybe the same ranking as mine. I'm not sure, but here we goes. Dandadan.
Okay.
It hands down the best action series of the year, and it has made many cool set pieces with explosive animation and very neat choreography. It also very lighthearted and humorous at times. But I found that the romance between the two leads, or the lack of it, is very tried and unoriginal. in fact, the writing of the show is really basic. You could see how the plot goes, miles ahead, and despite the very very good production, I would say that the writing is one of the main reasons I put it as low as number 7 in my on my list.
I see. How do you feel about like characters like Gigi?
Who's that?
Gigi, the childhood friend, Momo's childhood friend.
Oh, alright, Momo childhood friend. He's I don't like any of the characters in this show. He's included. He's the kind of guy who who first appeared to be very cool, and then proceed to be as childish as possible, and we know that there he holds something. He holds some of the secret, and he's been haunted by the new house, and I think that has something to do with himself as well. So pretty much interesting to see how it goes. But characters wise, I don't think I care much of any of the characters in the shows.
Interesting. Okay. Number 7 pick, but you don't like any of the characters. I mean, that's certainly possible. Yeah, childish is definitely a descriptor that you could apply to this show. All the characters are very excitable and exaggerated.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Well, I mean, perhaps I will have more to say about Dandadan.
What's your number 7, Wooper?
Should we jump to my number 7?
Oh, you can talk more about that. My research just off for a sec, so that's why I didn't hear what you say.
Can you hear me now?
All right, yeah, it's a good now.
All right, I guess I'll go to my number 7 since you asked. That is Dungeon Meshi.
Oh wow!
So Dungeon Meshi has a great cast, great animation, pretty good comedy. I particularly liked. So with my experience of Dungeon Meshi this year was in the winter season. So 9 months ago or more, we watched the first 14 episodes of Dungeon Meshi, and then I saved the last 10 until the very end of the year, so it'd be fresh in my mind. When we talked about anime of the year, so it wasn't something that I was like dying to watch right away. Because despite me really liking the cast, I don't. The structure of the show is not one that I'm really enamored with. The introduction of other parties like Kabrus and Shuros, not a huge fan of either of them. I mean, I really like the character designs of all of the warrior women in Shuro's party. They're really cool. But the whole idea that Kabru and Shuro, like, they encounter Laios in the dungeon, and then they go back up to the surface because they need to talk to the lord of the island, and then the elves are coming in order to try to seize the dungeon. All that feels very divorced from what's happening with Laios and the main party in their quest to get Fallon back after they got her back, but then she disappeared and transformed into a weird cockatrice or whatever it is that she transformed into, like a half bird, half dragon thing. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling, but I just felt like the show was kind of disconnected from itself whenever it tried to address its larger plot about the lunatic magician and the elves who were going to descend into the dungeon, which we see in episode 24. I didn't like those elements of the show. That kind of held it back for me. But I did really like the animation. I liked the comedy, especially in episode 22. So this is what I was talking about earlier when I said I watched the first 14 and then the last 10 separate from one another. I just watched episode 22 recently. That is the one where Marcel has to create. She has to summon like little birds in order to fight against a hippogriff or
Yep.
no, a
All right.
griffin. They think it's a griffin, but truly it's a hippogriff, something like that, because of the transforming mushrooms. When she's making these little winged creatures out of whatever meat and like vegetables and stuff they have lying around and transforming it with magic,
Yep.
it's so excellent. It's like some of the best animated comedy I've seen in recent years because she has to be blindfolded so that she can see through the eyes of her creation, and the way that she like wiggles around in order to mimic flying so that this creature
Yep.
can fly is so amazing. Like it's
Yep.
the drawing of it makes you feel like she's there in the room with you wiggling around, and you're like busting a gut at how stupid she looks.
Yep.
So it was funny more often than not, which is hard for anime to do sometimes. You know, not a lot of anime comedy is really translates, at least for me. But for
Yep.
Dungeon Meshi, it was a success. There was also some heart to the show. You know, like for example, Marcille and Fallon. Man, I really don't like pronouncing her name Fallon. Fadine, however you say
Fun.
it. I
Yep.
think it was episode 8 where we see the flashback to the two of them studying at the Magic Academy together.
Mm-hmm.
And Marcille is like the perfect student, and Fallon is kind of like the outcast. But when the two of them like form a little friendship, it's very sweet. Um, and this show is just kind of it's really inventive. You know, it's kind of zany. At different
Mm-hmm.
points, there's the frog suits that the characters wear in order to descend through a certain staircase where there's plants that would otherwise eat them, which kind of became a staple of the show. Like they would bust out the frog suit at other moments in order for, you know, because Marcille really didn't like them, and they would be like, "Oh, look, here's the frog suit." She would freak out. I can't remember the context or the reason for that, but that was fun. There was
Uh,
a body swapping episode. There was
yep.
an episode where a bunch of different like imposters of all the characters, uh, like these creatures transformed into imposters, and they had to identify who the real ones were and the fake ones were. And the fact that some
Yep.
of them were so obvious was very
Yep.
charming to me.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
recipes were all
Yep.
cool. The different environments of the dungeons, very cool. So I have a lot of praise for this show, but I really do take issue with the whole larger plot that it's trying to build from itself. It just feels like it doesn't belong, in my opinion.
Yep. All right. Did you know that the imposters episodes, they actually the mangaka actually draw off, you know, like all these uh all the variation and who they thought about, you know, like it formed them. So 4 times 4 is 16 of the all its posters, and they just threw up like this is the version that this person thought about that person into that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
Yeah, all the different
I
party
got that
members'
judge.
perceptions of each other were what
Yeah.
created the clones or the fakes. That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, I got the charge of, you know, like to who think about the other of what. So that image, it looked pretty cool. I really love that. I really love all these little details like that.
Yeah. Those were that episode and also the body swapping episodes towards the end. Um, in fact, I just watched episode 24 recently. I think it's 23 and 24. Those are the body swap episodes. So right up until the end, they're in each other's bodies.
Yeah.
Just when the show is just having fun like that. That's when I can really get into it. When it tries to get a little more serious, I don't. That's not my preferred version of Dungeon Meshi.
Yeah. I think the one that really fun for me is the one that allows go to the pictures in order to eat, and
That's an
it
early one, isn't it? When he goes
that's
into
one.
the
Yeah, that's one of the early ones,
right, he
and it
meets the
turned out
lunatic
that
magician.
yeah for the first time, yes.
But at that point, we don't know that's who it is.
Yeah, that's
And
correct.
the threat that the lunatic magician poses still feels very remote.
What do
They
you
keep
mean by that?
mentioning the magician's, you know, his title, and they're like, we have to defeat him. But I don't know. I just
Yeah.
waiting for that to feel more real, I guess. which it will eventually because there's going to be a second season.
Yeah. But hopefully gonna be the final season as well because I think the manga is about to end very soon.
Well, I don't know that I haven't read the manga or anything, and I don't know anything about it, but it would only be the final season if what we saw in these first 24 episodes actually covered the first half ish of the manga. I don't know whether that's the case or not.
All right.
We'll find out.
Yep, we find out. All right, my number 6 is an original shows. NegaPosi Angler.
I did not predict that you would have this in your top 10.
Wow.
It's the first one I've missed.
Yeah. So I had this one and Dandadan, pretty much, not sure about this placement. So I initially I put Dandadan first before NegaPosi Angler, but then I just feel that as opposed to Dandadan, who is really gorgeous in production and none about characters, this is a show. It's all about the characters, and I enjoy the characters of this show. So I just put that up, and I'm glad I made that decision. Last minute, but I have a really good time watching it. It's all about fishing for sure, but it also creates a nice atmosphere that both entertainments to watch, and it just feels good just to see the characters who sit in fishing. The main characters, his name is Sasaki, has a lot of personal development. He changed his attitude from really downbeat at the beginning to optimistic throughout the course of the series. The cast members are all distinctive and fun to follow, with memorable character design and neat backstory. One of them is, actually two of them is from the background is from Thailand, and they doesn't really make that fact obvious. You start to know about them, you start to learn about them, and it's except from their background from Thailand, there's not anything different from the rest of the cast, which is a little bit nice. Yeah. And they have this is a show that have the right amount of comedy, life, adventure, and drama. So my number 6 of the year, NegaPosi Angler.
All right, I've also finished this show. So when you bring up the siblings from Thailand, I know exactly who you're talking about. The blue-haired girl who's like a cosplay model, and the cook. I really liked the way that the cosplay model girl was drawn, because sometimes she would be like in her little kind of squished chibi form, and sometimes she would be more realistically proportioned and like beautiful looking.
Gorgeous.
And the show just went with whichever version of her was more appropriate for the scene that she was in. And there was even, I can't remember the context or which episode it was, but there was even a scene where a lot of the characters were hanging out. It might have been the one where they were all trapped indoors during the rainy season, and they all ate hot pot, and eventually the loan sharks showed up. I think it might have been that episode where that character, the blue-haired girl, she transforms from one version of her character design to the other in a single scene. Right. I seem to remember that there was some shot like that in there, which amused me.
It was before that when we have an episode dedicated to her, and that was the first time that Sasaki saw like the gorgeous version and didn't even realize that it was ice. Yeah. But I remember that scene you mentioned. That scene, she just like change back and forth between this form and the other form, and that also really nice.
Yeah, I think your memory's better than mine, because like when I bring up a scene, which episode it happened in, or.
This is a show that I enjoy, so I tend to remember the context of it.
Okay. I mean, it's a good pick. I did enjoy NegaPosi Angler. It does get dramatic. Like in episode
Yeah.
10, the schism that forms between, what are their names? Takaaki is the pink-haired guy, and then
Yeah.
what is the main character's name? Why can't I? Oh, Hiro.
Hero. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. The animation in that scene where they have that argument really sold it. I think it was a little uncomfortable to watch, and the way that the show it transitioned from his kind of wrecking of the apartment straight into the
Yep.
ED with almost no break, like no fade, really,
Yep.
was
Yep.
jarring. I was like, I don't like that, but on the whole, I did appreciate the relationship between those two characters, like you know, how Takaaki
How
kind of took him in like under his wing, you know.
Yeah. How do you feel about the ending where like hero decided to go treatment and it's end and
Did
it's
you
a
watch
flash forward.
the
Yeah.
post credits scene?
Yeah, and it flash forward to 2 years later and he's still alive. I mean, like, isn't it like the main point? Why don't we see he get any treatment at all? I was a bit too, but I think it's also an appropriate ending. Now
I
that
the
I think
fa-
back
the
of it.
fact just the fact that it says 2 years later, which is how long he thought he had left to live, and that he's still alive, I think
Yeah.
is what makes it work. You don't learn the details or anything, but it's clear that based on his visit to the doctor, that he was putting off for so long, and that Takaaki tried to convince him to schedule, and he resisted. After he finally makes the visit, I mean, all he had to do was get treatment. I think the whole time he was
Mm-hmm.
struggling with the initial news that he had some serious illness and that he was going to die. He was already feeling burdened by the circumstances of his life, like the fact that college wasn't going right, and I don't know, he wasn't making friends or connections or anything, and he was in debt. He had like
Yeah.
gambling problems and stuff. I think he was just at a place in his life where when he got that news medically, he like broke down.
Yeah.
I don't think he was ever like guaranteed to die in 2 years. I think that's just how he like interpreted it, I guess,
Yeah.
because he was in such a negative headspace, and that's the story of the show, right? Is him emerging from that thanks to the help of the friends that he makes.
Yeah. I remember there is an episode where he tried to fish something by himself, and there is a little like mock interview that show him doing all this, preparing, and he talking to the camera as well, and then failing, and then he tried to reason why, and then there's a commentary of he had the answer for everything. I love that.
I remember that was episode 7, or I shouldn't say remember. I have my notes in front of me. That was episode
All right.
7. So that was the episode where at the end you learn that the voice of the narrator is Fujishiro, the short guy with the glasses and the comb over.
Yep, 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 yep.
Yeah, that was like a fun little reveal. And the different format of that episode I did think that was creative.
Yep.
All right. Good pick. Did you say that was 7 or 6? That was 6.
That's 6. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I did not predict that you would have NegaPosi on your list. Let's see if you predicted. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Alright. Yeah, I thought it's rather obvious actually that and I actually predict you have that show on the list, but let's see about that.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah.
My number 6, I will jump ahead and
Yep.
reveal it is Orb on the Movements of the Earth.
Yep.
So it's only the first 14 episodes that I've seen. There are 11 more to go.
Yep.
It will not be eligible next year. So, I mean, I don't know why I brought that up. That's fine. That's just how we do it. But I did enjoy Orb. I wouldn't say I enjoyed it quite a bit. I
Yeah.
thought it was okay. So this was for me. This show is kind of like Olku from last year, where visually it is just not up to the task of
Yeah.
carrying the sort of story that it wants to tell. Orb is it's just like gray and it's kind of gross looking, except for the shots of the starry night sky.
Mm.
Animation is there are some impressive cuts when there are like conflicts with blades, but on the whole, the animation's not very strong. And I just wanted more visually from this show, but the story itself, the progression of heliocentrism as an idea, and that it's such a magnetic concept to people who are searching for the truth in an era of human history where truth was punishable by death, or the search for it was punishable by death. The idea that your life is to some of these characters who want to understand the not just how the universe is set up on like a I don't know, a physical level, but they also want to make sense of what it is they've been taught their whole life about God and the Earth's place within the cosmos, situating it in sort of a sinful base level, and that being like a reflection of the church's view on humanity as a whole. There are characters in this show who I think that are not satisfied with that explanation, and they're searching for something more. They're looking for meaning. They're looking for an explanation of the universe that makes sense to them, into which they can slot the moments of like transcendence, beauty, goodness that they've experienced and that don't fit with what they've been taught. They want an explanation for that, and so they go searching for it, even though everything that they've been taught, the world is telling them, don't look. There's some. I think the show is saying that there's something in people that is going to push them to look for answers, to look for more. And the way that that's illustrated in the story, not necessarily illustrated in the drawings, but illustrated in the story, I think is powerful. The music it also helps to push those emotions forward. I would say that this show, the soundtrack is by Kensuke Ushio, and this is one of the soundtracks where he's broken away from his electronic sound most cleanly. And I think it works pretty well. I wasn't sure about it when I first started watching, but I think that it's a soundtrack that really is pushed to the forefront in moments where it needs to be. And I don't always like that. Sometimes I prefer for that stuff to be a little more subtle, but I think it works in this show's case. So that when characters are making decisions to, like accept death or to put themselves in hazardous circumstances, you know, start to engage in like research or lines of thought that may lead to their execution. You need you need that music. You need to feel what those characters are feeling, because otherwise it might come off as too abstract. So I wish I wish better for this show, and it didn't exactly get it, in terms of its production. Whatever schedule was afforded it, or whoever the animation producer is, maybe other people are busy, or it's just not a project that was a high priority for the people making it, whatever. But I really like the story. It's ambitious, it's historical, it's philosophical. So all that is cool with me.
Yeah. I really like the fact that it's not like one single story, but like a multiple story from different cast of characters, but
Yeah.
deal with the very same theme, and in a way they continue and off, like finding out the truth. So, yep, I think I'm like in the middle of episode 2. Sorry, of act 2, and still still quite enjoy it. I don't really enjoy the visual, and I don't really enjoy the sometimes I just feel it's a bit too, to push the message down into your face, a bit uh handed.
Yeah.
So but overall I can see I can see why you put that at your number 6.
Yep. It's pretty good. It's okay. It's gonna have to stick the landing, but
Yep.
that's for another time.
Yep. All right. Now we are into the first half of our top 10.
Yep.
So with number 5, and this is, by the way, is the show that I watched yesterday, and I love it
Okay.
so much that I put that up to number 5. So all of these other shows are pushed back by one slot because of the shows.
All right. What is it?
All right, I'm building up the suspense.
Just say it.
All right, that show is Days with My Stepsisters, or
Ah,
Gimai Seikatsu.
I predicted this as an honorable mention for you.
All right. Yeah, yeah, it just come to my attention yesterday that like about the show. So I think I know about the show, but I didn't really try to check it out. So yesterday I tried. It's a 3 episode try just to see how I like it, and I really enjoy it. So it's the show that in the same vein with shows like Koikaze or After the Rain about controversial romance. It also remind me in a good way of show like Wandering Sun. So instead of exploding it and aiming to shock, it's all about the feeling underneath the surface. It's held by a natural, realistic dialogues that you don't often see in this medium, and the use of long static shot. In fact, I can easily picture this as a live action. I think you mentioned that on the like first impression that the shooting score can be a bit overbearing, but for me, it's my favorite of 2024. And the lists are exceptional. They are complex, gentle, and mature. Maybe a bit too mature for their age, but hey, this is like an issue that I'm welcome with open arms.
All right. Yes, this is very. I don't know. Can you call it artsy? An
Yeah.
artsy show.
All right.
It's very
That's a good way to put it.
quiet.
Yeah.
Um, so I initially started watching it and I was like, yeah, I like that. I like that it's on the quieter side and that it's the characters are a little more reserved and a little more thoughtful. They think before they act. I was into that. I watched episode 3. That's the one that presents all the events of the show thus far from
Huh.
the
Yeah.
girl's point of view. It like switches points of view so you see what she's
Yeah.
been thinking.
Yeah.
I liked that. And then I think I watched the next episode after that, episode 4, and her best friend with the red
Yeah.
hair
Yeah.
became more prominent. Like she became sort of a side character. And I
Yeah.
was like, I'm done. I'm
Too
done.
bad.
I like this. This show is presenting itself as like something different, and then it just inserts a cutesy kawaii otaku type character
Yeah.
who may also have feelings for the main guy. And I was like, no, I'm not. I will not stand for this. So I just
All
stopped.
right. All right. To help you, to tell you something is not going to the usual way. So there is no pretty much very minor extra romance. So it's come and goes very quickly. It just the main focus on this one is the relationship between these two people and how they come to terms with their feelings to each other. So and the flashback that we got is actually from her diaries, and there's a bit of the plot going on with that diary as well. So maybe
Yeah,
give it a try.
I might. I did like episode 3. I thought episode 3 was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But when immediately after that episode, it introduced that red-haired girl, and of course there's the senpai at work as well, who's always flirting with the
Yeah.
main character and like teasing him and stuff. I don't care.
Yeah.
I
I
I
I can understand why though. Like the two main characters are pretty much very, you could say plain and boring. So they need someone, like some psychiatrist to spiting up.
maybe
So I can
maybe
see the reason why they do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, the fact that it was a latecomer, I didn't think that it
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
be on your list. I knew it was the sort of show you might like though, so I threw it up there as
Yeah.
a potential honorable mention. It's similar to
Yeah.
Shoushimin series a little bit. It's got that
I
uh, you
I
know.
would say you did it pretty well because like by the time that you throw up the prediction, my list was still I still wasn't sure about my number 10 yet. So let's find out like in the future if you pick that right, because I do a bit of change on my number 10. So there's a bunch of other shows that was number 10 before a Shoushimin series got in and they got kicked out. So yeah.
All right. Well,
All
I
right,
guess
what's your number 5?
we'll jump fully into the top 10 here or the top 5, the top half here with my number 5, which is Boukyaku Battery, the baseball anime.
All right, wow.
This is the one with the amnesiac. Its English title is Oblivion Battery. Oblivion meaning like, forgetfulness, I guess, because one of the main characters is an amnesiac. And his personality is like completely reset when he loses his memory, and he becomes insufferable, basically. His sense of humor sucks, and he's trying to like create catchphrases for himself, and the voice performance by Mamoru Miyano, I think is his name. He's one of the most famous voice actors in anime. Is really like grating, really selling the show so far. So basically, I like sports anime, and so despite the presence of this annoying central character, I pushed through it, and I was rewarded with some of the best baseball animation I've ever seen, and a show that really interrogates its characters psychologically. Not the main guy, really, since he is a dumbass, but a couple of the side characters. Todo and Chihaya, so that's the delinquent character and the redheaded character. In case you ever like see, I don't know, an image of all the characters in the show side by side. The flashbacks to their middle school days were extremely interesting to me. Like the sports psychology in general is something I'm interested in, and the way that they had to like, I don't know, just what they went through as players for whom there was high expectation and who were being scouted by like guys who work for private high schools that assemble really strong baseball teams to try to get to the Koshien. That's like an industry in Japan because the Koshien is like their Super Bowl basically. And so the pressure that Todo and Chihaya were under, and how they dealt with it and how they crumpled under it and how they work at this new public school that does not have a baseball team, how they rediscover their love of the game is I was very impressed by how the show handled it. Really like the color design of this show as well. The earthy tones used for the different fields where they play, like the infields. And in some of the fields it's all dirt, so the outfields as well. They contrast so nicely with the sky. It's just a very very pretty show, Great baseball animation. Episode 11, the direction of that episode had a lot of push transitions between scenes, gave it an incredible energy. Maybe too much, arguably, but definitely one of the more impressive episodes of the year. Attention grabbing for sure. There was also an episode 9, that I thought was probably the best comedy episode of the year that I saw, which is where the dumbass main character gets his memory back temporarily after seeing a hypnotist. And he becomes like a super stoic, cool, like very just an all-around awesome character, and everyone loves him because of his personality has reverted to the way it was before his accident or whatever caused him to lose his memory. And it's very entertaining. The way that everyone reacts to his new personality just had me laughing out loud, which almost never happens when I watch TV in general. So not a show that I expected to love after one episode. And I probably wouldn't say that I love it, but the more I watched, the more impressed I became. Rather than falling off of it after enjoying it at first, it was the reverse, which I appreciated because that's not typically the way it goes for me. So there's Boukyaku Battery at number 5.
Yeah, I remember. Maybe we do the first episode together, or is that in the anime blog? But I remember the first episode as well, and I also wasn't keen about like the whole thing that he forgot, and then his personality changed things. But I'm glad to hear that it's get better.
Yeah, I would say it definitely does. But you have to be a sports anime fan, I think, to hang in there long enough for the show to impress you.
I am a sport anime fan, but I'm not sure if I'm a fan of baseball. Even that baseball is not that popular here. Well,
yeah. I mean, we're dealing with anime though.
Yeah.
Baseball, the most popular sport in anime, and it's not even close. Like
yeah.
there's no competition.
Yeah, I agree. It's helped that they are like the number 1 team in the world in real life.
What do you mean?
Baseball, Japan is like the number 1 country in the world, I think.
Oh, well, I mean, I would say that it's probably America on the whole, though Japan did win the most recent World Baseball Classic.
I see.
America did not send all of their best players to join that team.
I see.
But yeah, Japan, a solid number 2. And I mean, they're the reigning world champions right now, so you can say number 1. Shohei Ohtani, probably the best player in baseball, is Japanese. His team, the Los Angeles Dodgers, just won the Major League World Series in America.
Right.
Baseball's big in Japan.
Yeah, is that the league is just like America wise, or is that like the worldwide? Right.
No, it's just America. Yeah, there is no worldwide baseball league. There's just the World Baseball Classic that I think happens every 4 years. All right. And it's just a tournament. It's like the World Cup. It's not a league.
Yep. And then they have the Olympic as well, right?
I don't think baseball has been in the Olympics every year. I believe that it was not in the most recent Olympics, the 2024 Olympics. I don't think baseball was there. But it has been at the Olympics in the past.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that it was in the Tokyo Olympic because in Japan.
Oh, that makes sense. Well, yeah, I don't know. Wait, when were the Olympics? It was 2024, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was last year in France, but I think 2 years before that. Yeah, 2 years before that, it was in Japan where like the whole pandemic was going, so there's no one can come. So I think they make a pretty huge loss about that because no visitor can be allowed to come to watch the Olympics.
Yeah,
which is a shame.
As predicted by Akira, the Tokyo Olympics.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, what's your number
Alright,
4?
my number 4 is another sequels, and this is one from my personal favorite ever. So it's Monogatari series of a month season.
Oh my god. This is not
Why?
number 1?
It is not. There's 3 other shows that are top it. Yep.
That's crazy
So
to me.
I think the placement also pain because of my personal attachment with it as a whole franchise. It's been going on for how long? 16 years and ongoing. And for this series alone, though, it's established many new relationship and characters that stand proud as part of like the big ensemble cast. We see a bit of hierarchy appears in one arc, and we can see how he has matured over the time. The series is handled by a new directors, but she handled it with skills that feel fresh and on point. I cannot wait for more. There is only I think like 3 or 4 acts in total in this season, and there's a chance to be gonna be more fully adapted, and hopefully we don't need to wait for long for the next one. So yes, number
I'm
4.
still amazed. I'm amazed that it's number 4. Okay.
Come
Well,
on,
so
not,
off season, it's off in monster season, right? Off
yep.
is the side stories about the girls, and monster season is when Araragi comes back.
All right.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I'm not. Come on, I'm not that biased.
Well, I mean, which is better, off or monster?
I have no idea. I think they put the 2 of them together now. So like we see of them is like a remnants of this art from off and this art from monster. So I cannot tell for sure, but
You
I do enjoy like all of these characters, and I do feel that the main girl she need more times. We don't see enough of her.
Is this a new character?
No, Senjuhara.
Oh, Senjugahara, yeah. Crab.
Yeah, crap. That's her.
Okay, I see. So you're a
She's,
Senjugahara fan, and that's why this is not number 1,
n-
because there wasn't enough Senjugahara.
I just feel that she become in this series, in this whole franchise, she become abused. So that her act was basically done in the first act, and she doesn't really have room to improve anymore. So yeah, they try to just skip over her character for some reason. And I don't really like that. It's she wait due for an arc by herself.
All right. Maybe you'll get it in whatever continuation there'll be.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe off and season, off and monster season, final season, pack 1,
Off in
pack 2,
monster
or
season,
whatever.
final season.
Yeah,
Yeah, really rolls off the tongue.
yeah. My God. Yep. All
All
right.
right,
What's
let's
this number
do
4?
yeah, let's do my number 4. It is a sign of affection.
Yep.
I can't pronounce this show's Japanese title because whenever there are 2 like soft R's back to back that kind of sound like L's, I can't
Yep.
pronounce them, so I'm not even going to try.
Alalagi.
Araragi. Yeah, yeah, those are kind of soft R's. I don't know why I can't say Renren, but I can't do it. Anyway,
Yep.
this show is like Dungeon Meshi. It's one that I watched 9 months ago or more,
Yep.
and enjoyed it a lot. It's a shoujo romance,
Yep.
and it comes with many of the tropes you might expect from a shoujo romance. But of course, it's different because the lead character is deaf,
Mm.
and so that results in a lot of really nice sign language animation and lip animation as well. There's a lot of attention paid to like the volume and the shape of the character's lips in the show. I think for some people that's off-putting, but I think it was appropriate given the subject matter. and a lot of hushed piano music as well, which creates a very nice space for the internal monologues of the main character, Yuki. We hear her thoughts. She can't speak, but we hear her as though she's speaking to us. And a lot of what she says is very, it's like it's poetic. It's kind of elaborate. There are some similes and metaphors about, I don't know, the weather and the changing of the seasons and the warmth of another person's hands or body, and I don't know, stuff like that. And I like that stuff. I like shoujo anime, and I don't think a lot of good ones come out anymore. But this really filled I don't know, maybe a craving that I had. I don't think it's like a fantastic show or anything, but it's pretty good, and I enjoyed it a lot. There are conversations between the two lead characters, in their college age, which is nice. There are conversations about like intimacy and touching and the boundaries of their relationship, and I think that's very refreshing because you don't hear a lot about that in anime. Although millions of such discussions are had every day all around the world between like new partners and new lovers. That's just a very common, very normal, very natural thing, and it's healthy for people to talk about that stuff rather than just acting on their desires. And anime never really puts that sort of thing on screen, like ever. But this show did, and I thought that was nice. I wasn't really into all the side character romance, because the main romance is between Yuki and Itsuomi, and Itsuomi is like a really tall. I think is he half Russian, half Japanese, something like that. And he's like well built and really really handsome, and he has a very cool personality. And then so it's him and Yuki, and of course since he is such a hunk, there's another girl who's interested in him, and then there's another guy who's interested in that girl who's interested in him, and then there's another guy who's also interested in Yuki. He was kind of interesting. The fact that his personality was like so prickly and so sour, and yet he still spent a lot of his life like looking after her and caring for her, and that had blossomed for him into like love. So he was kind of interesting. But then there are other side characters who have their own romances, and it just got to be a little too much for me. It was really the main couple and the show's presentation, I think, that made it a success. So that's my number 4.
Yeah. Is it okay that I can touch you? Is it not? I think that's like some of these questions that he tried to say to her, or
Yeah. Well, he was trying to, because it was her first time in a relationship, and because she also, there are like communication boundaries between the two of them due to her deafness. He was trying to be considerate, I think. And he also just naturally sort of had that, like, because he receives female attention in general, because he's very handsome. So he's not, there's like no hint of like possession or desperation or anything in his approach to Yuki. He's just very much himself. And that's also extremely refreshing because so many anime, it's like there's a male lead character and they're surrounded by women, all of whom are very interested in like being close to him, but he has no idea how to go about it. The show, polar opposite. So that's nice. He does ask like, is it okay? Like episode 8, I have just here in my notes looking over, they have a conversation about where it's okay for him to touch her. For example, is it okay if he puts her hand on her stomach? That is very, some people might watch that episode and be like, this is weird. Why? Like, what's the point? What's the point of this? Can't it just be more romantic, more automatic? But not all romance is like that. And I think more romance should be like more carefully considered.
I agree.
The show did have that going for it.
Yeah, I also really like the main romance between the two of them. I also share your concern about like the side characters because they don't really work uh, that effective to me, like you said, and also the main characters he come up a bit too perfect. I think we will talk about that when we did the podcast a year
I
ago.
Yeah, it was nearly a year ago. I like that he's kind of perfect
Yeah,
because he doesn't take advantage of that. He doesn't take advantage of how perfect he is, how amazing he is,
yeah,
and it's nice that he is so considerate because the girl that he's interested in is someone who needs that consideration.
yeah,
So to me, it's just like a happy coincidence, and it's just nice, and I'm not overthinking it. If he's too perfect, then so be it.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah. All right, good pick. All right, to my number three now. We are now in the top threes.
Hmm.
My number three is the one that you already mentioned before. Dungeon Meshi.
Okay. Yep.
So the show combine two distinguishing elements with flair, dungeon fantasy and food porn, and that make both of them a plus to watch. I think initially I was worried that the premise will run thin with time, but I'm glad to say that it turned out to be rich and effortlessly fun. In fact, those light-hearted quests is the highlight for me. All the quests that you mentioned earlier, I really remember them fondly. Uh, I also struck on how easygoing it is for the whole cast, but when it gets serious, it is a behold to watch. Like the episode in the end of the first call where they revive uh, one of their members' bodies. It's just something else to watch.
Are you talking about Fadin,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
sister?
Falling. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's struck up like one of the highlights of the show for me. Um, the dungeon itself is also a characters. We see how it functions, the secret behind it, and all the other types of monster that live within it. And yeah, I just think that Dungeon Meshi is a show that done almost every element of its right.
Mm. Yeah, it's a good one. I just I already expressed my
Yeah,
main problem with it, but yeah, there's a lot. There's so much to like about it.
yeah,
It looks good. It's a lot of fun. It's got some lore to it. Some
yeah,
a big overarching story. It's got a season 2 where it's going to flesh that out. Hopefully,
yeah,
lots of little side stories as well. Characters are all great.
yeah.
It's a winner. We
Right.
both got it on our top 10. How many
Yeah.
shows do we have shared so far? Is that the only one?
That's all right. Let me have a look. That actually the only one. Huh.
Yeah, only one so far.
Wow.
Perhaps there will be
Um.
more.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What's your
Let's
number
see.
three then?
My number 3 is not one that you have mentioned yet. It
All
is
right.
Hibike Euphonium season 3.
Right.
So this one we already talked about at length, I feel, especially because it is the conclusion of the Hibike Euphonium saga, which encompasses 3 TV shows, multiple OVAs, a short film, several theatrical films, weird side stories that I don't even know how you get them apart from downloading them on a torrent site. Like there's just so much to cover, and there was so much to wrap up in season 3, and well, I had some issues with this season, but I'm not going to get into them too much here because ultimately, it was Kumiko's journey, and in this season in particular, I think her character was stronger than ever.
Yeah.
Because she went from club president to music teacher at the very end, as you see
Yeah.
in the final episode, and just feels so good. Happy for her.
Yeah.
One of the year's best character arcs overall, I feel. because a lot of responsibility was put on her shoulders after 2 seasons of her observing how that responsibility could crush other people. She still stepped into that role, was almost thrust into it really, but came to embrace it, and really grew up a lot in the process. And I think the show handled that pretty well. There were some stumbles, but really, there was personal issues that I had, I guess. Lots of echoes of season 1, with Mayu sort of serving as the Reina character, the prodigy who comes in and displaces the senpai, in the solo. There's the blind audition, just like in season 1. And there's even like a kohai, an underclassman, who's really upset about the decision, just like in season 1. That really annoying girl with the red ribbon in her hair, I think. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, I remember
But
her. Not
yeah,
the name.
I'm not particularly fond of her, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
For me, all about Kumiko. Not even really Kumiko and Reina's relationship with each other. That certainly factors into this series because there's tension between the two of them. Reina is like really loyal to Taki Sensei, more so than she is to the band or to any of the individual members, whereas Kumiko is trying to take a more individualist, well, how do I express it? She is more concerned about each individual member of the band, and she wants to resolve issues as they come up one at a time, with care paid to each person who brings them forward. Whereas Reina is much more big picture, and so that strains their relationship. But then they do reconcile, towards the end of the series, and that's great. It just, the fact that it put a nice bow on the Hibike Euphonium franchise is really the best thing about it, I think. The fact that it comes at the tail end of it and gives it a nice finish. And, it also, just if you zoom out a little bit, out of the show itself and just think of it as an anime production, it's like KyoAni's return to this franchise post-Arson.
Yeah.
So them kind of coming back home almost. So one of their most significant, biggest, and probably best shows from before that tragedy took place. This was like another way of them announcing that they're like really they're back. In much the same way that I think Kobayashi's Dragon Maid season 2 did a few years ago. But Hibike Euphonium probably even more fundamental to their 2010s run. So, I mean, kudos to them, and it was a good way to wrap it up.
Yeah, I just heard that from some of the source. I didn't really read into it, but apparently the the season changing the ending of the original novels. So like the original novel have a very different ending, and they decided to change it in this series. Kumiko becoming a teacher, for example, is anime original.
I see. Well, I mean, I over the years I have read little bits and pieces of, I don't know, interviews and excerpts and stuff from people who are like, oh, they changed this or they changed that. I don't really remember it all. I think in general the changes that they make, I mean, they must have worked out well, right? Shows a big
Yep.
success, and
I
I didn't really like season 2 that much, so maybe the changes in season 2 weren't that great. But
well, I feel that what they changed in this season, like the ending of Kumiko, is it just come very natural. I cannot think any of the ending that fit better than this. So kudos to them.
Yep. What you got for number 2?
All right. I think you pretty much got my two shows locked up now. So if I say number two, I think there's a high percentage that you gonna guess my number one as well. So
Okay.
it's gonna be a big review.
So there's potential here for us to have the same number one.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. For you though, I only can guess one of them. I'm not sure about the others, so it's still remain a mystery for me. So that actually kind of interesting. All right, my number two of the year 2024 in anime is Dead Demon Dededede Destruction.
Okay.
So we will talk about that in our podcast as well. And I remember at the end of it, we were basically enthusiastic about it, if a bit confused as well about some of these plot going on.
Yeah.
So let's just say again that is this one of Astro Note's adaptation. So he's one of the greatest mangaka working today. It's a show of two tales. One is the sci-fi about the alien invasion that deals a lot about a general anxiety about the future, nihilism and racism that are common in most of his works. The other half is just a slab life of these girls, the kids, as they grow up in the settings, and might or might not having to do with the main plot. I would say both are fantastic, but it struck me the way that the two balance each other very well and generally complement each other because of that. I still feel that the ending is like the way that the girls are not directly involved into that ending is a bit underwhelming, but I still really like the way that it shuffled between the toes and the way it played with quote unquote realities. And speaking of the characters, they are really well written and fit into the story well. Ontan and Karude, their chemistry between them is very natural, and you can see like especially in the first flashback that we see, I think in episode 5 or 6, really set the tone and the weight between the relationship between them. And also kudos for the alien Oba, who become more human as the show progress, and he actually like my favorite characters out of the whole series.
Me too.
Yep. All right. Yep. Yeah. I think I'm done.
All right. I'll go with my number two, which is NegaPosi Angler.
All right. Yep.
Yeah. I really did like this show quite a lot, more than I let on probably when you were talking about it, because I wanted to smokescreen one of my top picks. It was quite good. I liked the cast a lot. The fact that not midway through its run, but starting in like episode 4, there were individual episodes that were sort of dedicated to the different Everymart employees. For example, episode 4 was a lot about Hana, the girl with the floofy blue hair, one of the best character designs of the year, in my opinion. There was a really great montage midway through episode 4 about Hana's like daily life, her morning routine, her life as a student, the fact that she like is so obsessed with fishing and tries to work it into her schedule at every available moment. Gets a little payoff in episode 12 when Hiro, who's like headed back home, I guess, encounters her, and she has also caught a sea bass the same way that Hiro does in episode 12. And she's like, "I can't let you get ahead of me," and flashes a little grin. They have a little rivalry that kind of runs throughout the show, because she wants to have as many friends as possible who are into fishing, and she wants to teach him how to fish. But at the same time, they trade like little quips and barbs back and forth. It's mostly her teasing him, because Hiro is not the most conversationally adept. main character. He's
Yeah.
a little more withdrawn. But that's
Yeah.
also part of what makes the show great is that he comes out of his shell. You know, like during the episode where everybody's stuck in the break room at the Every Mart during the downpour. I mentioned it earlier. That's really a really great dialogue-driven episode where the personalities of all the cast members who we've gotten a little bit of individual spotlight on throughout the season, all of that really pays off in that moment. And we even get the great idea of the loan sharks coming in and just happening to have all the ingredients needed for hot pot. I mean, of course, it makes no sense, but it feels good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great piece of writing for that reason, in that just the way that everything dovetails, kind of like ties together, and you get that resolution to that little subplot. Speaking of the loan sharks, I really liked. Was it? I think it was episode 3, where there's like a 1,000,000 yen reward for catching a certain kind of fish, and so Hiro and the other Every Mart employees, they go out to try to catch it, but then the loan sharks are there too, and there's a scene where they chase Hiro through town, and this is where I want to mention the soundtrack, because the guitar, it's like acoustic guitar. Actually, it's classical guitar. It's nylon string, and the way that it like speeds up, slows down, gets quieter, gets softer is all perfectly in sync with the way that the characters are running and like their energy level. I really really like this show's soundtrack. My favorite of the year, without a doubt. It's almost all like solo guitar, and never the same piece twice. Always something new, almost improvisational, based on what's happening in the scene, the mood of it, the length of it. Very impressed with the soundtrack. It's not the sort of thing I've really ever heard in anime before. Perhaps there is, something there. Perhaps there's something similar out there that I haven't experienced yet, but I was surprised and impressed with the music in this show, and I appreciated it as a comedy, as a drama, and the little flashbacks that we got to Takaaki's past. It's a little goofy that like his argument with his brother causes his brother to like run out of the hospital and get into a traffic accident. That's a little hard to swallow, but I can roll with it, because it makes him damaged in a way that Hiro is also damaged. So that's why the two of them, despite not really having similar personalities or looking very similar, because Takaaki is tall and handsome, and Hiro is I don't know, not. They still have something inside them that they keep tucked away from the world, and that probably draws the two of them to one another in the same way that it also makes them violently, crash and separate. And then episode 12, the resolution to their conflict, very rewarding, very natural. Not a lot of like, I don't know, not a lot of apology to it, I guess. Like there's not one big climactic moment where one character is like, bows and says "Sumimasen." It's more the two of them realizing how similar they are, and that what separated them doesn't need to continue to separate them, because they're friends, and it's going to stay that way. And a lot of that is communicated wordlessly, and they even cooperate in catching the sea bass. Hiro hooks it and reels it, and Takaaki scoops it.
Sorry. I just
Go
want
ahead.
to add that they bond about that. They bond with each other through fishing as well, which is tie up to like the main theme of the story as well.
Yeah.
So they just fishing together, and then they tie up, that make peace with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that's so good.
Yeah, and fishing was also what connected Hiro to his brother. I'm sorry, Takaaki to his little brother. And I think Takaaki probably saw his younger brother in Hiro, and perhaps by taking him in, he wanted a second chance. And none of that is expressed, and none of that is said explicitly, but it's there, for you to to lend some power, I think, to the show's overall story and its character dynamics. So I really like this show. Liked it a lot. It was kind of similar to Do It Yourself in 2022. Also my number 2 pick of that year. Also a hobby themed slice of life.
Yeah.
In kind of the same way that this one is, but NegaPosi definitely has a very different flavor to it. A little more grown up, little more tension to it at some points, a little more drama. But yeah, I like both shows. So
Yeah.
NegaPosi Angler, number 2.
Yeah. I agree with you almost 100% of what you said. And that's why, all right, I have nothing else to say. Except go to number 1 now. I think you pretty much guess it.
I do know it, yes.
Right. It's Cell Euphonium number 3. And I was, between this one and my second slot, Dededede, as which one is my number 1. I also initially have Dededede as my number 1, and I changed my mind at the last minute before the poll yesterday. But I think I'm pretty good with this change, as Cell Euphonium last season is solid from start to finish. It just the whole thing, the whole production is flawless, top notch. They take the best quality from both season 1 and season 2. They provide the most satisfying ending to the whole franchise. It's been 10 years since the show start as well. God, it that long. So it's had the weight of like 10 years in the making, and they also feature like the very big cast. But I just feel like I kind of know every one of them, because they, like the whole 3 season and the movie that we see. There's always bit and pieces that we know about this person, that person, and what they conflict, what they like, and all that. So looking all of them together in this whole in this last season, and they work towards some things and they try their best to achieve that, is something to behold. And Kumiko, she grow a lot. This is the show about her progress, and we see the pain of of her not chosen for to be the solo players. We see all of her struggles, and we still see come out on top because of that. So this is just very emotional series for me to watch. And I think the only strike against it I would put is that this season tend to skip on the performances with
yeah,
a bit of a nap, but otherwise I think we got a nearly flawless season, and to cap off a really a really great show from Gimai.
Yeah, the missing performances were a bummer.
Yeah.
I really can't say that the show's flawless.
Right. Well,
but it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That a nice number 1 pick, I would say.
Yeah. All right. How about the number 1?
Because it wraps up a show that was always hovering near the top of.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't. Yeah. As I said, I didn't like season 2 too much, but season 1 was great.
Yeah.
I think when I watched it, it was my favorite of 2015. I'm not sure that it still would be if I were to make a list again. But what I'm trying to say is that anytime like Hibike Euphonium stuff comes out, you know it's going to be good. Or at least you can bet on it. And season 3 was continued that trend. It didn't falter at the end. It stayed strong.
Yeah, Cell Euphonium, I think previous season is on my top 5 as well, both of the seasons, but never once been up top of my list. So I think this is a good reward for them. as well.
Well, if it's your number one, I guess that means Dead Dead Demons Dededede Destruction was not strong enough to claim the spot. But as for me,
Yeah,
it was my number one pick.
yeah,
The first Inio Asano anime adaptation. I think he has had his work translated in other media before. Live action film. I think there was a Solanin live action
yeah,
movie,
yeah,
but never an anime. So there was a lot riding on this,
yeah,
and I mean, in my mind, it was a home run, or at least a triple, maybe not a home run, because I did have some problems with it when you got to the very end. It did feel as though the slice of life aspects of the show, where it was about the girls coming of age and their the last year of high school, the first year of college, that kind of got pushed to the side because they needed to go on that little beach trip in order
yeah,
to discover, in order for the reveals about the fact that this is a different timeline that Ontan created by using the shift machine from the alien who came from another planet. Or perhaps she didn't create it, but she transferred to it. She shifted into it. Anyway, around the time that the beach arc, where those reveals happened, where it kicked off, we started to convert, like the girls and the sci-fi, the coming of age stuff with the female cast, and the sci-fi stuff started to converge, and the show started to become one giant soup of all these different stories and ideas. And I really did prefer it when it was more a contrast almost between those two things, where you could observe characters living their lives in a very ordinary fashion, while at the same time, the world was going to end in like 6 months, and
yeah,
those two things were divorced from one another. Because when the end eventually comes, that's how it's going to happen. People are going to be living their own lives, concerned about paying rent and their romantic relationships and their grades and whatever else. And behind the scenes, governments are utterly failing to take care of the problems that are coming for us.
yeah,
And this show has illustrated that in a really weird and wonderful way, I think. Overall, like I said, got some issues, but whatever. They're small in comparison to how successful this was for a first Asano adaptation. There's tons of cool images in this show, man. Isobayan,
yeah, yeah,
the close-ups on the mushroom man, his like vacant stare, and his little nose hairs forming a mustache coming out of his little nose there.
yeah,
So like it's like lightly grotesque. Asano loves his grotesque imagery. Isobayan
yeah,
is like the cute version of that, which
yeah,
I love. In episode one, in particular, some amazing shots. The one with Ontan and Karode holding the radio, listening to the news broadcast from the roof of their school, and they're both wearing like aviator sunglasses, like they're the two baddest girls in the whole world. Is It's such like a rebellious image, which is fitting because Asano in all of his work is really concerned with people who are kind of like living on the edge of society, at the very least on an ideological level. Ontan is always going on and on about how she's gonna punish all the normies and all the people who just consume like and don't think about the impact that they're having on the world, and they're just like mindless drones, you know. And Karode is obsessed with this FPS game, and she, is there's a darkness lurking inside of her that you see in this alternate timeline that we flash over to in episodes 5 and 6. And she's got that really difficult relationship with her agoraphobic mother, and her father, as far as she knows, is dead and has passed away. Of course, the show reveals there's more to that as it goes on, which is a very cool twist. Then there's also so that I love the two of their characters and how just strange they are, and how like unapologetically themselves they are, despite not fitting in with anyone else. Like they really, Ontan has a phrase, or is it Karode who has this phrase? the two girls like regard each other as their absolute. They, if anything is going to be a constant in their life, in their world, it's going to be each other. And that's why Karode makes the decision to hop to this other timeline. I'm sorry, why Ontan makes the decision to hop to this other timeline where Karode might be alive, even if it means that the world will be destroyed in this other version of reality. As long as Karode is there, that's where she's going. I think it's just so interesting to consider that concept, like that your dedication to one person might be so strong that you're willing to throw everything else away, like throw your whole species under the bus. Is that admirable or is that evil? The show never commits to that. We get a nice resolution where we jump into the future and both Karode and Ontan are alive and as professional, working women, and they are secure in their relationship with one another, which is like a focal point of their lives, which they've kind of built around one another. So that's nice, but at the same time, it was really Ontan and her decision to hop timelines that ushered in this alien invasion indirectly. So there's a question there about whether she did the right thing or not. Of course, in terms of numbers, she did the wrong thing, but she followed her heart. That's I just think that's a really cool idea to explore. Speaking of images, there's also Olba with his face unscrewed after he sneezes, which is a gag that the show repeats a few times. An amazing shot whenever it's introduced, especially the original one with the snow falling and the scarf around his neck. All of Ontan's outbursts where she's like got the crazy eyes and the tears coming out because she's like so upset about whatever imaginary problem she's fixated on. Yeah. She's just such a weirdo in a lovable way. And of course, as the show goes on, it gets more and more complex. There's subplots. We get to see inside the prime minister's office, and his cabinet members are advising him on stuff. We meet the aliens who have come to Earth, and the fact that they're being like slaughtered by humanity, the way that they try to resist, and the tension between those of them that want to maintain the peace and those who want revenge. There's like commentary on AI. Their Plankton is the name of like a particular AI system that is powering these mass murder robots that are going around and killing the invaders, the aliens. And Asano's stance on AI seems to be it's gonna fucking kill all of us. Like when it's going to be used against like out groups, for example, in Japan, they're killing invaders because they're foreigners. The idea is that there is discrimination happening, and I think you can infer what his stance is on that social issue in the real world from this work. But the idea is that once AI is done with our enemies, then it's going to turn around and be used against us. And there's kind of a hopelessness, I think, to that idea that is very attractive to me. I like stuff that's really just works where there's like no hope. And at the end, some is offered to you, but it's not enough. I think this show is one such work. But it's it's fun to watch. It's fun to follow. Fun to speculate about. There are tons of intersecting plot lines and character relationships. The character designs are great. I think visually the character designs are what really carries the show. Backgrounds are good, animation's good, but it's really the characters themselves and their appearances, the thought put into the way that they look and what that says about their personalities. That really put it over the top. That really make it a treat to look at. There's more I could say. I'm going to stop myself there. For me, Dead Demon is number one, like by a mile. Nothing is even close. So
it's so weird that like after our podcast about this show, I got the impression that I love it more than you did, and it turned out that you put it on top. As for me, I put it as number second. So you pretty much like love it more than me.
Well, at the time that we were talking about it on the podcast, I had, at that point I had just recently finished it, and my least favorite group of episodes were the ones at the end.
Yeah.
So I probably had plenty of criticism of it.
Yeah.
But when I take a look at the year as a whole, nothing really stuck with me like Dead Demon. I mean, it was the only show that got me off my ass to actually blog it. And I'm still not finished, even though the show ended nearly 7 months ago at this point.
All right.
But I wrote plenty of words about it. I mean, I wouldn't consider doing that about any other anime this year.
Yeah. All right. Here's another question for you. Do you think that's the Pun gonna be adapted soon in the next, let's say 5-6 years?
No idea. No idea. I mean, if it's going to be adapted, it might already be in the works, and we won't hear about it for like 5 years or more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
True.
I think the question of whether or not that will happen probably has to do with Dead Demon's box office numbers, because although we experienced it as an 18-episode ONA, Japan saw it. I mean, I assume that the streaming version, also aired in Japan, but they got it first as like a pair of feature-length movies. So if it was successful in theaters, that would probably incentivize producers to be like, well, let's see what other work this Inio Asano fella has that we can turn into more profit-generating anime.
Yeah.
And I have no idea. Like, I don't really follow box office stuff at all.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this: if there is an Oyasumi Pun Pun anime, I'm going to be first in line to watch it.
Yeah.
Even though it was such a depressing experience reading it.
I'm not sure if I can handle the endings. Oh God.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it'll be worse as an anime, I think.
I'm not even sure how the general audience reception with this one. I know that it's a hit for both of us. I'm not sure if the rest gonna think the same, or is it just a letdown to them?
I think a lot of people don't even know it exists.
Yeah, that's a sad truth.
I mean, I'm okay with that. It's a very, very weird show. I mean, the character designs, not the main characters too, but like the designs of the background characters are ugly, like purposefully ugly. Because I think that is probably just a reflection of the author's view on people in general. Like, they're violent, they are thoughtless, they hurt each other, they kill each other.
Yeah.
And they're just stupid and ugly. But sometimes you find that one person, like Ontan and Karode did, that makes you like want to keep living. You want to live for that person. And maybe life is worth living if you can find that one person, even if everything else seems like disgusting or hopeless or pointless.
Yep. Yep. A great pick for your number one. I agree with that, given that it's my number two of the year. So let's see if our prediction of each other is correct or not.
Right. Yeah, let me hop on Discord here where you put your predictions and I did as well. Let's see. Okay, so I guess it would be easier for me to... What did I get wrong? I got Oshino Ko wrong, and I got Yadagarasu, the Karasu wa Aruji show, wrong. The other 8 looks like I got.
Yeah.
And actually, Gimai and Shoushimin, which were the other 2 in your top 10, I listed as honorable mentions.
Shoushimin is honorable mentions. So
right. Girls Band Cry was number 10. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but ultimately it got 8 out of 10. So let's take a look at yours. Okay, you got 8 out of 10. Very nice. This is
Yeah.
in the past you have had difficulty pinning me down, but you
Yeah.
really got it this time.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
So no
but
Dandadan for me. I assume that
yeah,
was probably the biggest surprise for you.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
I
And
did not like Dandadan.
yeah, I remember on the first impression, you did say that you did really like that, and you know,
I
all
mean,
the
the show
issue
looks
that
amazing,
yeah, I agree
but the characters are just whatever.
to do.
Yeah, characters are doo doo.
Alrighty,
Yeah. So what? Oh, you didn't predict Yatagarasu, and what else?
The baseball,
Right. That would be a hard one to get for sure.
yeah, it's a nice one to get actually. It's off my radar for you know.
Yeah. Well, after one episode, I'm sure it fell off a lot of people's radars because the blonde guy is just so annoying.
Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, I think I'm actually happy with my top 10 of this year. So turn out I think maybe we have another good year of anime. Not like the great ones, but it's still a year that worth spending time watching, and maybe hopefully
Maybe.
that this year gonna be better though.
Well,
I
I mean, there is all sorts of cool stuff coming up, man. All
yeah,
kinds.
yeah.
We've got City,
Hold on,
the
hold on. We will
adaptation
get
of
to that.
the KyoAni adaptation of the manga
Yeah.
by the Nichijou mangaka.
Hold on.
There's
Do you want to us to do the actual 10 now that we are mentioning that, or
I didn't even prepare a list. Did
right?
you?
I did actually.
Oh,
But
nice.
you say the one that you have, and then I'm gonna fill in the blank.
I mean, I don't have a list. I just have a big. I don't have an ordered list. I should say. I just have a huge like notepad file with a bunch of stuff that I'm interested in.
Yep.
Why don't
Just
you
all
go
right.
ahead and maybe I can add some stuff after you.
All right. So you just mentioned about CD, the animation from the creator of Nichijou. I got that on my list as well.
Yep.
We got Scarlet, the new
Scarlet.
movie.
Oh, the Hosoda film, right?
Yep, the new Hoshida films, which I think is confirmed for 2025 already. But
Okay.
we don't know much about the plot or anything. We got Lazarus,
Right. Watanabe.
Watanabe, new series, and it's always it's always a top for me. It's come up as a top. We got I'm not sure if you heard about this one, Leviathan.
What is
The
it?
new Leviathan. I don't know how to
Leviathan. Yes.
Leviathan. Yeah.
By
The
Studio
new
Orange.
show. Yep. From Studio Orange, and will be released in Netflix. And we got some of these show for this season, like Senju, Sakamoto Days, and what else? I got Witch Hat Ateliers from
Yes.
a popular
Yes.
manga.
Oh my God. Have you seen like the extended trailer for it?
No, I haven't. Is it good?
Oh, it's so good, dude. Can't wait for
Nice.
that one.
All right, I got three more. One of them is the summer Hikaru died.
Yes. Okay. Also looking forward to that.
Yeah, really like the concept of that. And we got Takupi no Gensai,
Hmm.
or Takupi original scene
Yes.
from the
That is
director
going to
of Doctor
be
Stone.
apparently like a. We were just talking about Inio Asano. This is
Yeah,
another like extremely depressing
yeah. Just look
watch.
at yeah, just look at the poster. You
Yeah.
already know it's depressing.
Yeah. So I'm
And
definitely very interested in that one.
last but not least, I got a. I'm not sure if it's a series of films, but it's called Neon of the Living Cat. Have you heard of that?
Neon of the Living Cat.
It's from, of all people, Takashi Miike.
Neon of the Living Cat. What is this? I don't even know this. Oh,
All
Night
right.
of the Living Cat.
Nyat, yeah.
Night of the Living Cat. Featuring former Megadeth guitarist. The adorable cats are here. The world is dominated by cats. I don't know anything about this. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's from the you know Takashi Miike.
Yes, I do.
He's so prolific. He's
Well,
so
in live
weird.
action, yes.
In live action, yeah. So this is, I think, his first portray, but he's no stranger to adapt some of the manga. I think like Ichi the Killer, he's adapted that as well. So it's gonna be very very interesting to see how he's handled that in his animation.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, so
That
you've
is-
listed yours, so that takes some of the pressure off me because now I don't have to mention any of those. So I'm going to scroll through here, see what I've got.
Yep.
So I mentioned City already. Yeah. Okay. The Darwin Incident, adaptation of a sci-fi manga that I'm looking forward to. There is a new Gundam coming out, which is directed by a bunch of Gainax staff, former Gainax staff. So I think
Right.
the director is the Fooly Cooly director. Let me see. Gundam.
Wow.
So the title of it is Gundam GQUUUUUUX. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Like G-Quacks or something? I don't know.
Oh,
But
man.
okay, yes,
Yeah.
it is Kazuya Tsurumaki who's directing it. So he's the director of Fooly Cooly. And
Wow.
Ano is on staff as one of the writers. Hideaki
Okay.
Ano. So
Yep.
when I saw that and when I saw the trailer, which is pretty impressive, I was like shot to the
Hell
top
yeah.
of my anticipated list.
Yep.
I mean, the Gainax guys getting back together for a Gundam series, I can't resist that. That doesn't mean that it's going to be good, but it does mean
Yep.
that I will watch it.
Yep.
There is a show called Kowloon Generic Romance, which is another adaptation of a manga by the author of After the Rain. And the character designs look very, despite it being produced at a different studio, the character designs are almost identical. In fact, I believe they brought the same character designer on board. So very much looking forward to that, since After the Rain was a very high placing pick for me in a past year.
Yep.
This is one that I'm not personally interested in, but you might be. It is called Sanda, and it is a battle shonen about a character who can transform into Santa Claus. And the manga that it's based on is written by the author of Beastars.
All right.
So if you look on YouTube for Sanda, Sanda, you can watch the
Alright.
PV, which is pretty impressive looking. It's happening at Science Saru. There is a show, or maybe a movie, I don't know, called Sayonara Lara, which is happening at, I think, Kinema Citrus, and it's an original work, and I think it's inspired by The Little Mermaid, and
Alright.
everything I've seen about it looks beautiful, so looking forward to that.
Wow.
Shin Samurai Den Yaiba is a battle shonen coming out next year that I'm looking forward to. Very kind of angular look to it. So all the promotional stuff that I've seen seems like it's going to have a pretty out there visual style.
Hold on. Is that they have the anime of that already, right? In the 90s. Is
Yes.
that the one? Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I think it's become a trend that they want to adapt some of these, classic stuff. Shonen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in many cases, I think they're giving them like faithful adaptations or adaptations that are more faithful than the originals, because it was more common in the past to go, to do your own thing.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
What else? Junk World, the stop motion sequel to Junk Boy. I think was what was it? It
Oh,
wasn't Junk Boy. What was it?
hold on. Chunhead.
Yes, the sequel to Junkhead is coming out next year. I mean, it's probably going to be
Wow.
delayed because it's stop motion and that stuff takes forever. But I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that. Speaking of sequels, Skip and Loafer season 2 confirmed.
Yeah.
Dorohedoro
Yeah.
season 2 confirmed. Um, and I don't know, and many more. Let's say.
Yeah. The new movie from Madoka as well.
Yeah, new Madoka movie is coming out, and there are going to be 2 more Mononoke movies, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
Second Haikyuu movie. There's
Huh.
also going to
Yeah.
be a new Lupin the Third movie that concludes the Takashi Koike series in the franchise, and he's the one who did like uh, Jigen Daisuke's Gravestone and Goemon's Blood Splatter. Um, all the ones that kind of have a similar vibe to the Woman Called Fujiko Mine
Yeah.
TV series. Yeah.
Very
So there's
interesting.
more. There's more that I could. Oh, the new Chainsaw Man film
Oh
trailer
yeah, yeah,
looks
yeah.
completely bananas. Definitely looking forward to that. Also, Cocoon. So this is Cocoon. This might be my most anticipated anime of next year. It is an
Right.
adaptation of a Josei World War II historical manga about I don't even really remember what it's about exactly. It's about 2 girls in like the aftermath of World War II or something who live on an island, and I don't know. But
Wow.
apparently it's being staffed by a whole bunch of ex-Ghibli people, and it's been
Wow.
in production for many years. I'm guessing it's going to be a film.
Yeah.
Oh, and also, uh, damn it, where is it? What is the title of it? Okay, The Mourning Children. Mourning with a U, like
Yeah.
indicating sadness. By Katabuchi, the director of In This Corner of the World. His new film comes out next year, The Mourning Children.
Huh.
Very much
Right.
looking forward to that. So
Wow. We got a
hopefully not too many of these things get delayed, and I don't look like an idiot for looking forward to them for next year.
we have a lot of good things that will come out this year. Actually feel feel pumped. And you guess what? Next week we're gonna be back for our seasonal first impression.
Right. Yeah. The winter season. It's already kicked off. We're 11 days
Yep.
into the new year, so most of the new shows have come out. I've got to say, for as interested as I am in many 2025 anime that'll be coming
Yeah.
out, hopefully
Yep.
over the next 365 days, what I've seen so far from the 11 days of 2025
It's not good.
are not good. Yeah, are not too inspiring. So the rest of the year is going to need to pick up the fucking slack.
Yeah. That's a narrative that we hear every single season, Wooper. So I'm not surprised. I'm even more surprised that we survived this long. So if
Yeah.
we can
Well,
get if we can get the goods, it's all the better. If we don't, it doesn't look inspiring. We will still survive somehow.
yeah.
Just
We
one
can
little
always look
stuff.
forward to what's on the horizon, and
Yeah,
just push away the reality of how terrible any given season might be.
yeah, yeah. So yep. I think we're done for the podcast. It is a long podcast, but I think that it is a very interesting one. We got so many good picks.
Yep. How many series did we have overlapping before we go?
All right, I would say 7 or 8, but let me have a look.
No way. Hibike, Dead Demon, Dungeon Meshi, NegaPosi. Anything else?
Oh, so it's just a top three actually. So yep, only 3 out of 10.
No, it's Hibike, Dead
Yep.
Demon, Dungeon Meshi, and
Oh,
NegaPosi.
all right. Yep. So four.
Are
Four out
are
of
there
10.
more? Those are just the ones off the top of my head. Okay,
Yeah.
no, that
No.
is
No.
it. It's just those
Yeah.
4.
That is it.
Okay. Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad. All right.
All right,
Yeah, we're
guys.
gonna log off. It's already been 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's enough.
Yeah. Guys, enjoy your 2025 anime. I hope that you have a really good 2024 as well. And yeah, we will see you back in more postcard in this year 2025.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Including next week.
Yeah, that's correct. All
We'll
right,
see you
bye
then.
for now, guys.
Bye.